Hi, I'm Betsy Laboe, and I am taping today on a show called Sparkle, which many of you have seen. And we have a guest, Jill Wilkinson, who I've known for years. She's a member of our neighborhood and part of the community of Birmingham. And she has been involved in so many different things. I mean, she's an accountant and she's been a comptroller of a hospital. She has two children. And you can talk about maybe a little bit about your family and some of the things you're doing, but she's actually working on a couple of musicals. And she is our vice president of Sparkle. But Jill, tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your background.
Good morning. I am Jill Wilkinson, and I'm married to a very talented person, Scott Wilkinson, who is both a physician and a composer lyricist. I have two grown daughters who I think are the greatest people in the world, and they became even greater when they gave me two grandchildren, one each. And so I am loving being a grandmother and make sure even though they're out of town for me, I spend time with them every day on FaceTime, and I spend in-person time with them at least once a month. So
yeah, well,
I'm blessed with that.
Yes, no, you are. And I think grandchildren are the icing on the cake in life. So that's so exciting to hear. I know that many of you've worn many hats in the community. You've been involved in leadership positions and you've been a friend to many, many people. And some people know about your faith and maybe some people don't, but I know that you have a wonderful faith, and maybe you can share a little bit about how you encountered your faith or encountered God, and then we'll go on to talk about your story.
Great. I grew up in the Catholic Church, and so faith was never far from me. I was a participant, and excuse me, and church was a part of our life. But when I was 16, I moved from what I would call a corporate faith through the Catholic Church to a personal faith. And that was significant to me because it was the moment that I really felt that God loved Jill. And his message finally came home to me that it wasn't Jill as a part of this or Jill as a part of that family or Jill as part of anything else. It was just Jill, and God loved me. And that is when my life really went in a different direction as far as knowing and really living through the love of Jesus.
So I know when you changed like that, you probably discovered that you had more peace and there was a change in your life. Maybe talk a little bit about your story and maybe some of the transformation that happened, after that.
Sure. My mother has dementia, and so that has been a long process of saying goodbye to her. My mom was my prayer warrior. And so I would always go to my mom whenever anything was up. I would say, Mom, I need prayer for this. Mom, I need prayer for that. Emily's going through this, or Ellie's going through that, or we have this decision between Scott and I. And I would always go to my mom. And she was sort of would always point me, back to Jesus and in that prayer time. But as her abilities diminished, all of a sudden in August 2021, I realized I didn't have my prayer warrior there anymore. And I needed to take up the mantle of the family prayer warrior. And that's how I started I was in scripture every day, but that's when I actually really intensified my journaling and my intention. So when I tell somebody I'm praying for you, that means I'm praying for you. You're in my book. I'm going before the Lord, and I'm bringing the concerns to Jesus. And we can have hope, we can have help, and we can know our way forward because we're bringing Jesus into the situation. And I do send reminders to people so that they know that they are not alone. They may feel alone in this minute, but they're not alone, because Jesus has been brought into the situation where two or more are gathered. He is there amongst us in prayer. So we know, we have faith, we can trust, we can lean into this help and hope. And I have heard from pretty much everybody that's on my list how much that means to them, to know that there's that faithful warrior there by their side, and that Jesus is right with them.
Yeah, I love that story. And I know sometimes it takes a situation in life, like a parent or a child or some friend that, is going through a rough time, or yourself going through a rough time, to realize that we need God, and that we know that that we can't do it on our own. And the fact
Yeah.
that you had a mom that was interceding in prayer for you is amazing. And have you seen a difference, or have people seen a difference in your interceding for them? Have you noticed that people's lives have changed?
Yeah. Well, I can just go through my journals and just one right after another see that, how God has provided and been there and helped us through various situations. In March of exactly a year ago right now, I was ensconced in New York Presbyterian Hospital lobby as my daughter lay in the ICU several floors above me. You know, trying to survive some after childbirth complications. And a lot of people know Ellie's story, and she not only survived, but she was miraculously healed. Her entire body shut down. She lost her vision. Her kidneys completely shut down. And she was like very close to going on dialysis and maybe not even surviving. I mean, my husband would come home night after night, and home being at, where I was. And he'd have to keep up a cheerful front while he was up with Ellie and Teddy. But with me, he was like, I don't know if she's going to make it, and that was something that challenged me, but I was like, she's going to make it. I've been praying. I prayed the entire time. Because of COVID, I wasn't allowed up in the hospital to even see her, but I felt with her through prayer, and it carried me through it. It carried her through it, and it carried Teddy. Teddy would call me in the middle of the night and ask me to pray with him. So it really made a difference there. I have a lot of friends who have asked me to pray for jobs for their children. They've asked me to pray for relationships for their children. Even not even because they were concerned, but just because, hey, let's bring God into this and make it even the best. Not oh, I'm really worried about who my son wants to be engaged to, or my daughter is seeing. It was because this, let's bring God into it and elevate it to what is the very best plan and the very best timing.
Yeah.
And Emily had been having trouble getting pregnant, and right after Amelia was delivered, within, very short time, I mean, they're only 9 months apart. So we were blessed with Finn, and it was God's timing. It wasn't God's timing. We had been praying for Emily to get pregnant before, for the year before that, but that was God's timing, and it was perfect because God knew what we had coming up. And so he gave us only what we could handle.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And a lot of times, like you said, you don't really know the peace until you start praying. I think a lot of times it's the faith, and God also bolsters you up in faith when you're supposed to pray for something that you see God working in, and He gives you that strength. But Jill, you are a prayer warrior, and I know a lot of people really have had their faith strengthened by you and your prayers. So we appreciate that. And is there anything you want to add in closing? Just a little snippet of something that you want to leave people with at all?
I do have something. There are a lot of people out there who, when they come up against a struggle, they look to their own resources to solve it. this weekend, when a lot of people were afraid of what was happening with the banking debacle, specifically, they're looking at how can I handle this situation? And I think my approach is, Lord, give me the wisdom, give me the discernment, give Ellie the discernment, the wisdom, Emily the wisdom, discernment. Let's come together. So when I tell somebody that I'm praying for them, that doesn't mean, roll the eyes. Oh, what else can you do? You're just going to pray. Fine, thanks. Really could use, a couple $100 million. But the key is that when God, that's the most important thing you can do. Then God can show you your resources. He can show you your path, give you the discernment that you need, the wisdom that you need. The first thing to do is always, no matter what the obstacle, no matter how earthly, how unimportant it may seem in spiritual terms, that's where God wants us to be, at his feet.
Yeah, I love that.
And not roll your eyes at prayer. Yeah. Say, yes, Jesus, come into this situation. Yeah. I need you.
And a lot of times it's not telling Jesus what to do or to God what to do, but asking for wisdom in a situation or his will be done. And I love that you're doing that, because sometimes we don't see it and God can show us answers. So yeah. Well, anyway, well, thank you for joining us today and for your wisdom and your the fact that you are out and about and praying for people is comforting to me for sure. And I'm sure to the people that they're praying for. And we'll see you again next time on Sparkle. Thanks for joining us today.